Hi grade 9s, today I'm going to do our second video for assignment number 3. We're going to continue off from where we left yesterday. So we're going to look at a problem that we learned in yesterday's video, and we're going to see how we can make that problem more difficult and more challenging today. Let's look at this question, 4x plus 3 plus 2x plus 1. And don't forget, the reason that there are x's in this question is because the x's are something we do not know. And so we want to figure out what this expression simplifies to. How can we write it shorter? Well, if I have 4x's plus 3 plus 2x's plus 1 and I group it together, I'll end up with 6x's plus 4. Today we're going to make it a little different because today we can use a different letter. It doesn't always need to be x's, but what you can see is that the exact same technique to answering the question. It's just that this time, instead of having 6 x's, I would have 6 w's plus 4. So today, not only are we going to use different letters, for example, W's instead of X's, we are also going to add negatives to our problems. So negatives can really cause some problems sometimes for students, so I'm going to help you out with that. Let's look at this question here. Okay, so what you need to understand is that anytime you have negatives, you need to realize that the negative goes with the number that comes after it. For example, this negative doesn't go with the 2w, it goes with the 1. This plus doesn't go with the 3, the plus goes with the 2w. This plus right here doesn't go with the 4w, it goes with the 3. And in front of this 4w, there would be an invisible plus because we don't see anything there. So this is really, really important. You have to understand that anytime we are simplifying expressions, you need to not just look at the number, you need to look at the sign that comes before it, because those two things go together. So in this case, we have 4 w's here, and we have 2 w's here, so that would be 6w, just like before. Here, though, we have plus 3 minus 1. That means I've got 6 w's plus 3 minus 1. If I use my calculator, that would be plus 2. That is the big trick to working with expressions where there are negatives. Let's look at a couple more questions. These, again, are simplifying questions. That means you want to make them shorter. You want to put the x's together and the numbers without x's together. But again, we've got negatives, which make it a little tricky. We'll first do 1 together, and then we'll do number 2. Okay, so here is question number 1. We want to do the same trick, and I know it might seem tedious, but I've been a teacher a long time, and I know it really helps when we put the circles around the numbers with the plus or the minus. So this 8 goes with the sign in front of it, negative. This 6 goes with the sign in front of it, negative. This 2x goes with the sign in front of it, plus, and this 3x, it would be plus. So let's see what we would have now. We would have 3x's plus 2x's give me 5x's. Now, the part that is tricky is this next part. Okay, we know we want to group these two together. And this is where you might need to use your calculator. And you need to know the difference between subtract or minus and negative. They're actually different buttons on your calculator. Subtract or minus is the button that looks like this. Negative is the button that looks like this or this. And depending on where this sign is, it's either a subtract or it's a negative. Okay, so right here, when this line is between two numbers, we're going to consider it subtract. That means I need to use this button on my calculator. However, when it's out in the front, before the number, it's not between, it's in front, this right here is going to be a negative or These are the ways that you might see it on your calculator. Let me show you on my calculator so you can see what I mean. So if I was going to do this question, this is -6, because the negative is at the front of this part of the question, subtract 8, because this is between those two numbers. So on my calculator, I would press 6 and I'd make it negative, and then subtract 8 equals -14. So my answer would be 5x's minus 14. Okay, so here is question number 2 from that screen. We want to do the same thing we did last time. We want to do the circles. So the 10 and the plus go together. The 7 and the minus go together. The 12x and the plus go together. And here we have 3x. Okay, so we know the x parts go together. So this is 3x plus 12x, which gives me 15x. Now the part that's tricky is here we have -7 plus 10. Now, since this negative doesn't come between these two, it comes at the front. That means that you need to use this button or this button. So we're going to do that with our calculator. Of course, some of you are fantastic with negatives and you can do it without a calculator, but if you have to use a calculator, it's not the end of the world. So I'm going to press 7. I'm going to make it negative by pressing that button. And then it's plus 10. Plus 10 gives me 3. And on the calculator, it just says 3. It doesn't say -3, it just says 3. That means that is a plus 3. So over here, we're going to put plus 3. And that's the end of that question. Okay, so let's try this question together. The first thing I want you to notice is that there are y's, there are x's, and there are numbers that don't have y's or x's. So let's group them together. And let's make sure that we don't forget that we need to circle each number with the sign that is in front of it. So the 9 has nothing in front of it, but we know it's a plus. The 3 has a plus in front of it. The 4x has a minus in front of it. The 2y has a minus in front of it. The 3x has a minus in front of it. And the 5 has a minus in front of it. And then we want to group them, the things that should go together. We know that the 9y and the minus 2y should go together. We know that the 3 and the minus 5 should go together. And we know that the minus 4x and the minus 3x should go together. And then we'll do those 3 calculations separately and then put them back together. Okay, so we have 9y minus 2y. And since this minus is in the middle of two things, it means that, oops, I didn't spell middle right. It means that we need to use the subtract button. So I have 9y subtract 2y, and that would give me 7y. Here, let's actually move to the bottom. That's easier. We have 3 subtract 5. This is in the middle. If it's in the middle, it means subtract. So again, I want to use this button right here. 3 subtract 5. I'm going to do that on my calculator. 3, oops, I need to turn it on. 3 subtract 5 equals -2. So then I'm going to put -2 here. And lastly, I've got -4x subtract 3x. Since this is at the front, it's going to be the negative button. And since this is in the middle, it's going to be the subtract button. So I need to go, and this is where the people have a rough time and they make silly mistakes. So let's watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to press 4. I'm going to make it negative. And then I'm going to subtract 3. And it gives me -7x. And then all you need to do is you need to put all of that together. So I've got 7y, -7x, -2. And that is the simplified or the shorter way of writing this long sentence. Here are the questions you're responsible for today. And don't forget, grade 9s, that you want to record the answers to these questions in the assignment 3 checklist right where that purple circle is on your screen. Have a great day. If you have questions, send them my way. If you want me to check your work, you can send me your work as well.